what was the most interesting thing in the internship and the co-op? I had a broad experience outside Canada. When I came here, what's the job market in Canada? What means work in Canada? What's the work environment in Canada? How people behave, what they talk, what they value, and how they interact with each other. And that was key for me to understand how I was supposed to behave different from my past experience here. It's a different culture. It's a multiple culture country. And we work with dozens of different backgrounds in anywhere you expect to go to work in Canada. No matter if it's a small or big company, you always have dozens of backgrounds. So understand how to interact with each other, and that was key for me. In Brazil, we have a lot of multicultural thing, but it's not like here. Here, it's a lot more interesting, in my opinion. So
Absolutely.
that's why my takeout.
That's a fantastic point. I'm sure we have many international students here as well who would appreciate the value that you get being in that multicultural environment. Thank you for sharing. Anita, did you want to talk about your internship?
I do. Can I have a few minutes? Because I have a really good story, and I really want to talk about it. Okay, so this is the thing. When I was doing my postgraduate diploma here at Centennial, we had an opportunity to do a capstone project, which is similar to an internship. So you could choose from a bunch of different projects to work on. And what I did was I chose a project, like a real world project, for a small organization that had just started. That organization at that time was called Women in International Trade Ontario. This is back in 2000 to 2001. So they had just registered as a not-for-profit, and what we were responsible to do in our capstone project was to create their website, their marketing plan, their business plan, their hardware and software options, like the whole gamut. We ended up producing documents over 300 pages long. And out of that, I am not joking, I got 3 job offers. So I was the only person in my program that got 3 job offers out of that as the project lead for that project. The other thing that happened, so this is where this gets interesting. The connections that you make in your real world projects can last you a lifetime. So what happened, fast forward to 2010, and the company that I run with my mom, and I have staff as well, was one of the top 100 women-owned businesses in Canada. And as a result, I connected again with the people that I'd done this project for in Centennial, the Organization of Women in International Trade. Lo and behold, they remembered who I was. Fast forward 2 years later, they asked me to be their president. And I took up that opportunity to become their president. I did that for about 5 years. And with that opportunity, being a president of a not-for-profit that was in business, this is how I got my job here at Centennial. So do you see how these connections, like they go in this really wide, interesting paths? Like success, we always tend to think of it as this linear line, right? But the reality is you never know where the road is going to lead you, but you got to maintain those connections because they can prove very valuable to you. And what happened was a professor here at Centennial had won a prize with my business card in it. She called me to do a guest speaker session. And when I did my guest speaker session, it was Julie Wynn. She was like, oh my gosh, you like speaking. And I'm like, I love speaking. So she's like, you need to teach here. And I'm like, are you serious? This is my alma mater. I'd love to. So that is my long-winded story. Trust me, build those connections at Centennial. Take this time to experience outside, making those connections. This is the perfect time. People know your students. They want to work with you. They want to nurture you, and you're going to find mentors and all these people outside that want to help you. So that's my story. Thank you.
That was definitely worth a few minutes. Thank you. It all started with the capstone project, right? So just amazing. Thank you for sharing. So my next question. The business and technology programs at Centennial College are broad, so I'm wondering how you narrowed down your career paths. How did you narrow down your job searches? Maybe Mariel, we'll start with you.
Okay, that was quite easy for me. My background is IT and my bachelor is in computer science. Back in some time ago, and After that, I started to work as a project manager on IT field, then consulting, then project management again, and consulting. And when I spoke to my wife and decided to come to Canada, what's supposed to study? Project management. Of course, I'm doing this for years, so it's perfect. And that's why I chose my program. Was like a no-brainer in my case because it's the path I was following, and the career I was pursuing back here, out of Canada, and here in Canada too. So for me, it was easy.
Okay, fantastic. Aisha?
Okay, when it comes to me, I took a risky road, you can say. So my first program was strategic management with accounting, which was very much apt to what I did back home, which was bachelor's in commerce. So all my subjects and everything related to the program was very apt for me. But then when the point came wherein I had to choose a second program, either I could choose the business program and go into financial planning, which most of my classmates did, or I chose a risky factor of choosing marketing because I always wanted to explore marketing. And if not now, there would not be any other chance wherein I would be able to learn about marketing. And Centennial gave me that opportunity wherein I was able to take up a program which was not just about marketing, but with a hint of finance. So I chose corporate account management with marketing, and I'm glad I did that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kevin?
So talking about how I kind of started focusing my career during school and after school, like this is externally of actually selecting the course, software engineering. I knew that I wanted to get into that, but once, as we were mentioning before, you do software engineering, or there's so many possible jobs that you could get from there, tester, software development, management, right? There's so many different directions you can go. So for me, I was able to focus myself because I basically gave my all to every project that we did. And I really tried my best to learn every aspect of all of the projects that we went, right? Like, we never tried to just pass, right? Whenever I did anything, I tried to go further than I ever needed to go to really experience what that type of work is, right? So for me, that really helped me to realize what I wanted to do, like how much I liked software development specifically, which led me into the career of, application development.
Fantastic. Robert?
I would say just pick what you want to do after the first year and try to excel at that. Let's say after the first year, I decided that I want to work in solar energy, that's what my life will be connected with. That's why I was going to different networking events in Toronto. I got a summer job related to solar too, and I'm still working in solar. So that's how it worked for me. But everyone's different, right? You guys should make a choice for yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anita?
So this is the thing. After I did my e-commerce program here at Centennial, I worked in IT for a bit. Realized it wasn't my favorite thing. Sorry. And but you know what? I'll come back to it. It happens. So what happened was then I decided to do my master's in anthropology and social anthropology. I moved to Ottawa, did a bunch of consulting for the federal government, decided to come back to Toronto, work with my parents. And then what happened was I had a client meeting with Walmart. And when I went to Walmart about 7-8 years ago, we were talking, I almost lost the account. Okay, so here I'm in a meeting with Walmart, and I swear it's like doing a meeting with the FBI because they knew everything about me. Like they had done their research, and I was like, oh my God, this is kind of creepy. But they seriously did. Anyways, so I'm in this meeting, and I almost lost the account because they were just launching their website, their e-commerce portal, and they wanted to compete with Amazon. And the last minute I remembered, hold on a second. I did e-commerce at Centennial. I understand how to do e-commerce. And then she got really excited, the buyer, and she's like, oh, no, you got to let me call somebody in because we're the first jewelry business to sign on with Walmart.ca. You can find our products there under Jewels Forever. And she calls somebody else in who's the IT guy, and she's like, she did e-commerce. Do you think that you could do this, this, and this? And I'm like, yeah, of course I can do it all. Not really having much of a clue. But then I figured it all out. The skills came back to me. So this is the reality. You might find that the skills that you learned years before would end up being useful to you now. And now I would say a good third of our sales, so 30% of our sales are through different e-commerce platforms. So these things are useful, and everything I did learn in project management here did end up being useful for me in consulting. It ended up being useful for me in IT, everything that I do. So it all comes back.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm wondering what resources or tools helped you with your decision and journey? So did you have any mentors? Did you do any informational interviewing? What was it that helped you in your career search, in your job search? Sorry, Aisha, did you want to start?
Sure. So for me, my mentors in my program were like Linda Trial, Michael Ryan, David Took, Jackie McSkill. So all these professors really helped me out when it came to actually being confident in speaking in front of everybody, because I had ideas, I had thoughts, but in order to formulate those and express those was a task for me, and they helped me out. So they were the first to go. Then the second one is obviously LinkedIn. And when I participated in the Great Canadian Sales Competition, it gave me an opportunity to go to networking events. So that in fact helped me a lot as well, because I went to 3 or 4 networking events wherein I could meet employers and organizers who are from like downtown and really nice companies. So that helped me in network. So yes, all of these really helped me.
Fantastic. Robert?
Well, I did only one job search so far in my life when I was looking for co-op, and well, I'm still working at the same company, so
Co-op really worked for you.
yeah, like
Good shot.
yeah. I got a great coordinator. It's Linda Lully. Yeah, she helped me a lot, like with everything, cover letter, resume. I was chasing her everywhere, just to get my resume polished up, cover letter. And I also used co-op department services too, like interview practice. Yeah, before my interview with Hydro One, which was helpful, really helpful. Different booklets, how to write resume, how to write cover letter, how to approach even like employers, I think. And there was some networking events too from co-op department, like I think it was a construction conference in downtown Toronto, something like that. So yeah, I used co-op department a lot, and it was it was very helpful.
Fantastic. Mario?
Um, I think one of the biggest resources on college that helped me was you, because a few things. First, the mock interviews, they're very interesting. You know, you put yourself in a position with your teacher that knows you. So there's no way you try to not tell the truth. And the second thing is, I remember you gave a series of standard questions, or very common questions for interview, like what you planning to do in 5 years, or what's your uh, biggest weakness, if that makes sense. Big weakness. Well, so the thing is, all these questions helps you to think about what answer. Honestly, they're not so simple or easy questions. You're always trying to find a way to get your weak spot, and doesn't look like that bad. And when you prepare for this kind of mock interview and you read these questions in advance and you have time to think, I still have over my decks today at least, I think, 8 or 9 questions like this, and my answers. I don't know. Who knows? The day I can do an interview again, all my answers are there. They look good. They were bulletproof because I got a job. So I think that was very good, and I strongly recommend that when you have career classes, really do your homework. Like, get those questions, read through, get ready, prepare nice, very nice answers. I remember once, what was the question? Something related to if you had a kind of relationship problem in the office or in the work, and how you handle that. And I was remember, okay, yeah, I had these ones. If we were just on the interview without thinking in advance, I'd probably be the worst answer ever. And the answer that I prepared, and actually that's true, I explained the situation, and I did this in an interview for good. They did this question to me, and I gave them this very answer. I thought, yeah, I had the problem in the past. I solved it by doing this, this, and that. In the end, was very good. We became friends, and his comments about me are on my LinkedIn, if you are curious about. And I remember that I left the interview. On my way home, my LinkedIn on cell phone just popped. Oh, someone watching your profile. When I was checking, oh, it's the HR. They are checking you. If the person that I was speaking about was in my LinkedIn, so that was a good catch for them to go on my LinkedIn account to check my stuff. You know.
Excellent. I have to say, I'm thrilled that we're getting all this great feedback on our career services and also the careers courses as well. I didn't tell them to say any of those things. So thank you.
That's true.
Yeah. Kevin?
Yeah, I think everyone has kind of touched on what I was thinking about this as well, which is how important networking is. And I know you probably are hearing this so often and are thinking, okay, sure, whatever, right? But honestly, I'll tell you what, Centennial offers so many resources and so many opportunities to network with fellow students and with other people that are in the industries that you're trying to get into. And every job that I've gotten, it's through people knowing what I am and what I've done, right? Like both of the jobs that I had, I never applied for them. I was headhunted or offered jobs by people through networking, right? So through the school here, things like this, going in other students, talking with them, befriending other students. I've gotten my friends jobs that were students with me, right? Just from keeping in touch via networking. But things like the tech fairs where you meet other potential employers, right? Job fairs, talking to some of the other potential employers there and just seeing what they expect and stuff like that. And again, like you mentioned before, the career services. Like prior to taking basically learning how to write a resume was incredibly important, right? I may not have had to use them so much, but when I look at my resumes prior to taking those courses and then afterwards, oh man, it's night and day. And I've had to read through tons of resumes because I've also hire people now. And I'll tell you what, seeing some of these resumes that people hand in, it is unbelievable that they expect to get a job. And yeah, it's very important to learn that stuff. And I learned all of that here. Yeah, it's been really, really helpful.
Fantastic. Anita?
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of what everybody else said here. For me, my mentors were people that were my professors. One of my profs actually ended up hiring me for consulting work, and that was great. So, you never know. I've consequently went back to hire some of my former students. So this semester was the first time that I hired 2 of my former students, which is really exciting for me. And I think that having mentors in your life, it can be in your personal life, it can be in your professional life. It's an ongoing activity. And you might find somebody that you connect with on whatever level, but it's important to have them. And one day you could be like me where you can actually get the opportunity to mentor other people. So I'm really grateful to be able to give back to my alma mater. Like, I'm so happy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Those are wonderful answers and so much information for everyone here. So thank you. I wonder, now that you've been working for a little while, what was one of the biggest surprises that you had when you entered into the working world? What was sort of like a aha moment that you could share with our audience? I'm going to start with Anita. I'm going to start with you this time, Anita.
I guess the biggest thing was, I think you echoed it earlier, where it's not what you think it's going to be like, right? Like you get into work and you think that, okay, I've learned everything at school, I know how to operate, and it's not true. Maybe parts of it are, school's just a building block. They'll give you this basic structure of what you need to do, but in reality, everything is off the cuff of your pants sometimes. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? And you just have the tools at your disposal, like learning in project management or whatever program you're in. But it's really about being able to critically think on your feet and be able to adapt and to be flexible and not realize that things are not rigid. You have to be open to change. and also constantly updating your skills. I always tell my students, I'm like, you think that I'm actually, you think that networking ends when you're done, your schoolwork. You might have to get some marks for your assignments. But the reality is I network more now as a professional than I ever have. In school, I probably didn't do it as much as I thought I would. But now as a professional, even though I run my own business, I teach here, I don't really need any more job opportunities. It's actually a great way to learn. It's a great way to exchange ideas. And you never know, you get new clients or other opportunities, right? So keep meeting people.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to add sort of surprises when you entered the workforce?
Sure. For me specifically, having been in college here for 3 years, when I finally did get into work, just how much easier it was than college. Honestly, my life was school when I was here, day and night till 2, 3 in the morning sometimes. Get up to 8 in the morning, go to, and then I went to work, and I'd get home from work and be like, I need to do work. And it's like, no, I don't need to do work. I can just relax. Yeah, that was oddly enough a surprise for me for some reason.
And be paid for it.
Exactly.
A nice surprise.
A nice surprise.
Excellent. Anyone else? Surprises when you entered the workforce?
I think Anita just covered everything. It's more about adaptability because you're never really prepared just out of a graduate, especially in Canada, because back home I have worked. I was working for Deloitte. So here the culture is completely different. So you need to adapt yourself when it comes to the company that you're working for. And that's really unpredictable. So
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, like when I was entering that world, I always thought that it's all about technical skills. As long as you know your technical skills, you're good. But it's not actually true. You can pick them up, some of them. Yeah, you still need them, but in most cases, just behavioral skills. Like you need to adapt quickly. It's especially in the competitive markets like construction. It's also everything is changing any second, and like fast-paced environment all the time. Yeah.
I go with him. The soft skills in the office, they are the key because nobody works alone, nobody produces alone, and I never heard about a one-man team. Honestly, I never heard about it. So you always will be working with someone, for someone. So soft skills are just how you build your relationships, your network, your career, actually, Who like to work with a boring person or someone that's unpleasant or someone that you cannot, get a coffee with? Nobody likes to work with this kind of people. And when you are the person that, people likes to be with you, they also like to work with you. And you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Thank you so much for those answers. I'm curious, now that you're working, if any of you have experienced any challenges with your work-life balance and what you do to manage that. Yep.
I'll
Kevin?
talk again. I don't
Thank you.
mind. Yeah. So yeah, the work-life balance thing, like I mentioned, when I was in college, I had absolutely no work-life balance. It was all college, right? So I had a bit of difficulty kind of going from that just to being able to leave work at work, right? So certainly the first job that I got coming out of college, I was doing a lot of overtime, and I would, work at home all the time, just because I was so used to doing that, right? And it was burning me out. Right after doing that for a long time, it really does. And you get to the point where you're basically doing worse work at work because you're working all of the time, right? So finally, when I came to the realization that maybe it's more important for me to leave work at work and have my family time or have my at-home time, I think that I started turning out better work myself, right? So definitely, I think it's important to find that balance, right? But you're going to have to probably work overtime. You need to put that hours in too, right? Because you want these companies to really value you, right? And I know that they did me because I proved that I would go out and do that work. So after I had done that, it was much easier for me to say, okay, I need some time. Like I'm just going to work normal hours now, right? So I think that you kind of, so for me, yeah, I did it all, right? But I think that maybe you need to be prepared to do that as well, right? You got to become the piece that this company cannot lose, right? So, and if that takes working a bit of overtime or, you know, working outside of work hours, like I wasn't getting paid for a lot of that, but you know, I wanted to complete these projects. I wanted to get it done because I wanted to look good. And for me, I think that helped a lot, especially early in my career.
I like the message there about, you know, pushing yourself at certain times, but also recognizing the need for self-care and the fact that when you're also taking care of yourself, you're doing better work. So thank you. That's great. Anyone else? Work-life balance?
Just to please my engineer friends here, the life at work is just like a sinusoid. You know, you have ups and downs. You have some occasions that you have a lot of work to do. You do overtime. You have to work a lot. You have to travel, and that's, you know, part of the business. That you don't. It's almost impossible to avoid, but also have the low moments, and that keeps the balance. And that's where you need to stay with more with your family, give more attention to your kids, go out more with your friends. But you know, today technology is so good. When I'm traveling, I call to my son every single night to say goodnight. I think sometimes I speak to my wife more often when I'm traveling because I keep calling her all the time to say, okay, everything is good, everything's fine. Do you need something? It's okay. So yeah, this balance is important because in the end of the day, you can lose your job, but you cannot lose your family. You know, jobs just pass. Even though you retire, I never heard of someone that retired from his family. You know, they stay with you until the end, and probably later. But the thing is, keep this balance. Work to keep this balance is really important, and actually avoid the burnout. And you say a better productive person, more happy.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, guys, I definitely agree with you. There are days where I have to stay until midnight, especially submission days, but there are days when I just leave after lunch or don't come to work at all. So it's always varies, and yeah, overall it's good.
So are you saying you have a flexible work schedule?
Yeah, I can work from home.
Nice.
Yeah, and I can sometimes leave after lunch, come at lunch, and all that kind of stuff.
Fantastic.
But yeah, there are days where I work until midnight in the office. Can change it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be the opposite one here. The only reason is, if any of you ever want to be an entrepreneur, there is very little work-life balance. When you're an entrepreneur, you're working almost all the time. People can call you on Sunday morning, they can call you in the evening, and no matter what, you might have some kind of issue and you've got to resolve it on your own. You might have a great team, and I do. I have amazing staff. I have a great team. But the reality is work-life balance is much harder sometimes when you're your own boss. The other thing that I just wanted to say quickly was also, if you're somebody who really likes doing things and you like being around people, I encourage all of you to take leadership initiatives. I've always maintained being on a board of any kind, whether it's a not-for-profit, whether it's a company, an organization that you really love, being part of your community. It's really important, especially as international students, when you don't have family or relatives here, even though it might be something that is taking time away from you. You know, it offers chances for leadership. It offers you other opportunities to change other jobs, but also you gain a lot of skills and you build community. So if you can get into leadership levels and community organizations, I highly encourage you that. And that's usually not paid. So just FYI.
Thank you, Anita. Actually, that leads me into another question I had specifically for you as an entrepreneur. If any of our audience members are considering entrepreneurship for themselves, if you had any recommendations in terms of approaches, services, any tips for our entrepreneurs out there?
Toronto, as you know, is probably one of the economic engines of Canada. And there is a myriad of opportunities. Like, I can't tell you. Name a product or service. There is an organization for that. And if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, you could find there's marketing associations, there's trade associations, there's associations around, I don't know, sports equipment, whatever product that you sell. There is going to be an industry association. For example, I'm a member of the American Gem Trade Association, the Canadian Jewelers Association. Quebec Jewelers Associations. But what this presents you is opportunities to learn. It presents you opportunities to find new clients. Being part of an association is just so amazing. And I can't emphasize enough that you should take advantage of that, because you get learning opportunities, but also you never know, you can meet clients as well. So being part of associations. And the other thing that I want to say is some of them have mentorship programs. So I've taken part in the RBC mentorship program. So they'll train you. My mentor at the RBC program was the vice president of procurement for RBC. So this is somebody who you're not going to meet walking into a networking event. This is somebody who has literally 3 hours every 2 months to take a phone call meeting with you. But you're learning from the best of the best. And this was a free opportunity. But you have to be out there, put yourself out there to gain access to these opportunities. There are so many mentorship programs for entrepreneurs, but you have to be at the right place at the right time and kind of be your own brand and go to these events. So.
Great advice. Thank you very much. So just, reiterating the value of those associations and mentorship programs. I actually have a question. I know the 3 panelists closest to me, I believe you're all international students, or were international students. And so I wanted to ask you all if you had any specific advice for our international students with regards to the Canadian workplace. And I'll start with you, Aisha.
I would say just be yourself, because you might try to be somebody. Don't never try to do that, because your own true self is something that an employer must be looking for. So you never know. So just be yourself is my advice.
Good advice. Thank you.
Well, I agree with Aisha, and I would also add that just take co-op. You guys just came, don't really have any connections here. Not your parents. Your parents don't have connections here, so that's a great opportunity for you to just land a good job. Treat like a co-op as a 4 months interview. Just show your best. When I was co-op, I was doing 76 hours a week. And I was hired after. And I'm happy now.
I like that. Treat co-op like a 4-month interview. Excellent advice. Mario?
I like her advice, be yourself, but only if you're a nice guy, If you're not, try not to be yourself. Because of the relationship thing that I was talking about, that's important. That jokes apart, what's important is, as I told you before, and she iterated very well, be a nice person, be the person everybody likes to work with, be reliable, dependable, do a good job, do your best. Doesn't need to be right, but do your best. I learned over time that you can do wrong. I have a lot of experience, and I screw sometimes. Happens. It's part of life. But the thing is, if you say, I'm sorry, and you learn from mistakes, and you're honest and humble, people recognizes you. They don't. I don't think that punish is the appropriate word. I think they don't hold hard feelings. You understand? Yeah, okay, yeah. Everybody does sometimes. Happens. Let's try again. It's simple. It's actually a lot more simple than people makes look. And I think that's my advice for you. Oh, there's one little thing. Everybody talks about working on your soft spots. You have that thing they're not very good, and work to make it better. And that's a good advice. Do this, because everybody needs to be a little bit better than yesterday. But never forget your strong points. Because when you are in an interview, when you're hired for a job, you're not hired because you were bad on something. You're not hired because you don't know something. It's the opposite. You're hired because you know something, because you're good at something. So keep an eye on your strong points, on your selling points, on what you're good at, and improve this, because that's what makes you different, special, and desirable for the company. Just like this guy here that never looked for a job, you know? And that's the point. Have you thought about in one day in your life not work towards your strong point? Like, I'm not very good on poetry. Let me try poetry. No, you're a good software developer. You're good technical. So you keep doing this,
I, I'm the kind of person that I want to know everything as well. So especially with software, like software development, like if I learn one aspect of something, I go down that rabbit hole, and I usually find myself, I do a lot of self-education anyway. I find that very important. I think that it's important for anybody to do that. But yeah, for me, it's easy because I'm legitimately interested in what I'm doing, which is also nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see? Your strong points. That's the key.
To Mario's point, yeah, so I like the message of remember your strengths. You're not being hired for your weaknesses, you're being hired for your strengths. So focus there. But also, I like the message about owning your mistakes, right? And Kevin as well, about the message around continuous learning, for sure. And I actually only have one more question for everyone on the panel today before we take it to the audience. Do you have any advice for current students around their career development? Anita?
Just some of the things that we've talked about already, like keep learning, going out there, networking, staying in connection with people, but really looking at your education here as a stepping stone to meeting other people in the community. So get out there, don't just stick to being here. The other thing that I want to emphasize is create your own projects. Like I look at the opportunities that are available to you. I know all of these gentlemen here are IT experts, but a lot of you know how to use social media. I always say to my students, go out there, take a look at, do an audit for a company. If you don't want to do the co-op or if you don't want to do an internship, I know you can actually go to another business, look at their website, say, I've done an audit on your website. I can even do your social media for 2 weeks for free. You might want to consider this, You never know. And I've done stuff like that in the past and gotten jobs by doing free work. It's a mini internship, you could call it, I guess. So there's opportunities everywhere. Just take a look.
Yeah, you might find a problem you can solve for someone. Excellent advice. Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, again, I won't go over the whole how important networking thing is more and more, but definitely networking is very helpful. But also, yeah, continuing your education and continuing to learn in your field, I think is very important too, because if you're looking for jobs down the line somewhere else, or you're at a company, if you get stuck in a rut, you're going to be in that rut forever, right? You need to be able to get yourself out of that. I've had friends that they've got themselves in a position and they've got very comfortable in a software development position, right? But then now what they have been doing is basically no longer relevant, right? So now they're trying to find a job in what they know, right? Which nobody's hiring there. Now it's all going to be JavaScript or something else, right? So it's important to know where your field is going as well. But I think even more important than that, and I always feel bad saying this to people, I love my job. I love going to work. I enjoy work, right? I can't reiterate how important it is to find something you like doing. I've been in the position, and actually one of my co-ops, I didn't really enjoy it, right? So I knew after that co-op, I don't want to work for a huge corporation, right? I don't think the banking industry is for me, for instance, right? And I'm glad that I learned that through co-op, because where I am now, I look forward to work. I had to take half a day off work today, and I was driving in here. I was thinking about work the whole time, but not in a bad way. Just I am looking forward to getting back to it. And, that's so important because, I've been in the position where I haven't liked the job, and that is not good. When the majority of your life is spent doing something you are not passionate about and not interested in, that is difficult, right? It's going to make it affect everything else in your life, right? So I think it's important to really know every possibility in your field, right, where you can go, and really what interests you, something that makes you proud,
That's fantastic advice. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. For the people that study project management usually relies a lot on experience. So it's supposed to not be too young to be a project manager, because usually you have to have some level of experience, not necessarily as a project manager, but working per se. So one thing that usually helps a lot, people start their careers or software project managers, certifications. Spend time studying more than the college to take certifications, to go to organizations related to your work field. For example, for project managers, you have like Scrum Alliance, you have the PMI, and many other organizations that supports project managers. Their body of knowledge is they have other project managers there, where you can find mentors, where you can do networking. So this is really important. Understand your work, your goals, where you're going, where you want to be, and actually be part of that. So I was wanting to be a project manager. In Canada, I was volunteer at PMI. I took my certifications. I was in every single meeting presentation almost every week, knowing people. So that was my part to build a network to get a job one day. And actually to make friends too. It's nice when you get to know people and you discover that you both have the same kind of problems in the work, and you talk about it, and eventually you can learn a lot. So
Thank you. Yeah, so I love it to have a presence in these organizations. Absolutely. Wonderful advice. Robert?
So I'll be short. Just take all opportunities you have, chase them down. You never know how it's going to turn out at the end. You'll be surprised. Learn from your mistakes, from your failures, and just keep going, and you'll get everything you want.
Excellent advice. And last but not least,
I guess everybody covered everything, but I would like to, say something from the point of view of being a student, because I have been a student not long ago. So I would say it's a very hard phase of being just graduation until the time you get your first job. It's a very a really stressful phase of your life. So I would just say, be calm, be positive, because things will come your way. Just give it some time. So that's
I
about.
love it. I love ending on that message of resiliency. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aisha. So we're going to just now open it up to all of you. If you've been sitting here having any questions swirling around in your head, is there anybody who wants to ask a question to any of our panelists today? Fantastic. I'll come over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have a question for you. That I'm currently the student for the graduate certificate program in business school. I'm quite confusing about the job hunting, about the positioning of the graduate certificate, as many job posting asking for kinds of bachelor or master. How to position the graduate certificate in the job market? Thank you.
Yeah, so a good question around educational requirements and maybe if those were barriers for any of you.
I know for me, right? Like I mentioned, I did have job offers before this, but I know people. You see a lot on job sites saying, you got to have a master's, you got to have an MBA, and that kind of stuff, which I think is where you're trying to go with this. Ultimately, I think if you can make a really good resume, right? If you have a good presence on LinkedIn, all they need to do is speak to you, right? Once you get into that interview, I think that you're going to have more opportunities. People, they just don't want just anybody applying for the job. Like, you have the education. If you can prove that you know that, like from having the diploma, that's enough, right? Even, like, they may not say that, but I wouldn't let that put you off. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, as an employer as well, for business especially, we're looking for some real life experience. So if you haven't done your co-op or if you haven't done an internship, do some real life experience. Like I said, go out, do a project, do a couple of projects, because somebody's going to look at that and they're going to be like, oh, this person already has experience, right? So it's about how you position yourself.
Actually, I'll just take a moment to do a little plug here. I don't know if it's still running at the moment, but we have things like Design Jam here at Centennial College. And so Design Jam is an opportunity for students to partner with industry leaders to solve problems for them. So that might be another option. Thank you. Any other questions? Fantastic.
Thank you. My name is Rafael. I'm in business marketing. It's a simple question for Professor Anita. So you mentioned leadership opportunities or programs or things like that. Could you maybe give some examples of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I would really recommend, there's a website called charityvillage.com. Okay. And on that website, they have listings for not-for-profit organizations. But also, if you look at the Toronto Region Board of Trade, they also have a list of all these business associations as well. And I really encourage you to take up an opportunity. Most of these are not-for-profits. So what that means is that they have a board of people, usually 5 to 11 people, that oversee the governance of that organization. And taking up that opportunity in a not-for-profit organization, it will lead you to a lot of open doors. For example, one of the things that I did was at the age of 23, I became the president of this organization. It was a really small organization. It was an arts organization. Their budget, their annual budget was $60,000. What I did was I wrote a bunch of grants. We increased our budget to $250,000. A lot of people in the federal government found out that I was the chair of this organization. I did not have an arts background, but I will tell you, for 5 years, at the age of 25, I was making $500 a day as a consultant in the arts sector. So this is how you have to go about it. If you find a good leadership position for yourself and you make the right connections, you can land amazing opportunities. Yeah, so go for it.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Any other questions in the audience today? Oh, fantastic.
Hi, so I have a question. I just recently read like there is a difference between networking and like networking. I think networking is more like beneficial for just yourself, and networking is like creating relationship networking. Networking. Yeah, yeah, for me too. It's just like a new study or something, and there's new books about it. So they say like networking is more like creating like relationships based in mutual, like beneficial, I guess, like beneficial. So I saying that, I wonder what's like the best way to meet people and like just not ask right away, like, you know, what I want something from you, but like put yourself, you know, like, I don't know, like, as they can get something from you.
I think she gave an excellent advice when you build this kind of relationship, when you get a project and you do by yourself to someone else, this builds a relationship, you know? When you go for these professional organizations, you also build relationships because everybody there is basically looking for the same thing. You know, you have the opportunity to meet every single kind of professional in your field, like junior professionals, very seniors, small companies, big companies, and you have the opportunity to be exposed to a ton of different people that you can build this relationship. You know, I think her advice for these organizations are just the best and fits very well to what we're looking for. Build meaningful relationships when both can get something out of this.
Thank you. Absolutely. Great question about authentic relationships. Kevin, sorry.
I agree with what he's saying too. You don't want to build the networking as like, maybe I'll get a job with you in the future. Don't be like, oh, give me a job. Can I have your card in case you have work, right? You want to build that networking as a friendship, right? To keep in touch. And honestly, find the smartest person in your class, all of you, and become friends with them. If they're going somewhere, like you could come along for the ride, right? Their coattails to the moon. No, but honestly, you know, if you keep in touch with the smartest people in your class, somebody in your class is going to do well. They're probably going to have the opportunity in the future to give you an opportunity, right? And that's, honestly, like I've got jobs through people in my class, and people in my classes have gotten work through me as well, right? So, and on top of that, like the opportunities at Centennial there's endless, right? With the leadership program, like you were speaking about before, but even things like this, like meeting other students here that maybe aren't in your class or maybe aren't in your course, or tech fairs, the job fair, right? Like tech fairs, you're showing this is what I can do. You know, you're having employers are coming in and they're looking at that, or maybe people that are in different courses or different classes may also see what you do, right? And you can build on that. And down the line, they may think, oh man, I remember that guy that did that really nice project at the tech fair. Yeah, we're looking for someone to work. I knew someone from school. Let me get in contact with them, right? That's the kind of thing that happens. Like when I'm hiring somebody at work, most of the time, the first people I'm going to talk to are people that I know from school, that I know what they can do, right? So, yeah.
Excellent advice around authentic relationships and, you know, making friends with your classmates. Absolutely. Thank you.
Can I add one quick thing? One thing that I would also suggest, and I say this to a lot of students, and it really works. Before you go to a networking event, if you can find out who's actually going to be there, do your homework about them. Because that way you can offer something, right? Can I do a quick story? Okay, quick story. My cousin got this job, and how he got this job was he went to an event just like this at YorkU. So he was doing his MBA at Schulich. And one of the panelists for this alumni event didn't show up. The panelist was a man who runs a very big bakery. I'm not going to mention the name, but very, very large national company. And he sent him a message and he said, you know what? I sent him this message on LinkedIn, and this is a multi-billion-dollar company. And he said, you know what? I was really looking forward to seeing you tonight. I know you couldn't make it, but can I meet up with you at some point for coffee? And guess what? This man actually responded, because being an alumni puts you in an automatic connection with people. Now guess what? 2 months later, he finally met up with the man. And he did all this research. So my cousin knows nothing about soccer, which is football in England and India, I guess. And this man supposedly was a huge, avid football fan. But he's from the UK. So what my cousin did was he looked at all the stats of all the things that were going on in football so he could have a conversation with him. And guess what? Out of that 15-minute coffee turned into a 2-hour meeting, turned into an $18,000 summer internship. So that's the thing. If you do your research about the people that are in the room, you never know where that opportunity is going to lead you. That is an extreme example, but you could do something in the middle, you know?
I want to add to that too. Like, you're totally right about that for sure. Knowing who you're talking to is important, and being able to tailor your questions to them and give them interesting questions, right? If you're asking somebody when you're at a tech fair or a job fair an interesting question, they're going to remember that. Like, oh, who's that smart guy that asked me that question or something like that, right? Like, if you're just asking generic questions or, making generic conversation, if you can tailor that to the person that you're speaking to, I think that's also really important, as you mentioned before, because people will remember that.
And also a great message about taking risks and reaching out. We're very nervous to reach out to people sometimes, and taking a chance can really pay off. Did anyone else have any other questions for our panel today?
Good afternoon, all. Building a resume for an international student after graduating from school is a new thing. So my concern is, like, when I made my resume, I wrote everything like I am best in English, but I know that I know well in English, not best. Then one of my friends said, you should be loyal to your resume. You should write the thing you know. Is it like in a business, a hiring manager will see the resume content or the loyalty of the person?
Maybe Aisha or Robert, did you want to take this one?
It's all.
I think the question is around being truthful within
Yeah.
your resume.
Well, you definitely need to be truthful, because when you start your job, it will come up, right? Whatever you're gonna say.
Just to add, what you could probably do is skip that line completely, so that you don't portray something negative on your resume. And just focus on the positive.
Yeah, and most of the students, what they will do, they will take the prepaid resume from their friends, and they will just change the name, and they will do post on the online, but they won't get job. For my example, when I arrived here, after 2 months I got job, but it was all on mine. It was not from any references or any friends. It was like direct connection to the company, and by that method I got the job. So sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to speak to kind of what you were asking about before, which is, I think with a resume, you need to tailor that to the job and the company that you're applying to. If you just send the same resume to every company, it's generic. Like, I look at this, okay, I can tell that they've put this at the companies. Why are they telling me they do this? This has nothing to do with the job I'm offering, right? So I think no matter what you're doing, it's very important to tailor your resume to that. But also, being completely truthful on a resume, sure, right? But if there's something that you don't know in a job, but if you can learn that before you start the job, right? Say that you know it. Right, when you get to the position, if it's not something that you're particularly great at, fine, you can better yourself. You can make yourself better at it, right? Not everybody knows everything,
Yeah.
You know, but if you have a basic understanding of some of these things, you know, you could really fill that out
Yeah.
and do better, right? So you don't, if you get the job, right, great,
Yeah.
learn it, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be trial by fire when you get in there, perhaps, right? But I think it's important to, you know, also put yourself out there, but tailor your resume, right? Like if you, just because you may not know one section of a job, like Apache, you know, servers or something like that, if you know 5 different types of servers, you're going to be able to figure that out, right? So I think that just because you don't know that one thing, you can learn that. So you don't necessarily have to be 100% truthful in every way, right?
Yeah, and you'll have to, and of course, we need to use our own resumes and represent ourselves truthfully. And using a friend's resume or buying a resume would not result in being contacted, right, for the opportunity.
Just to add one thing, regarding the language question that you told, where you're specifying whether you're good or great or better. Instead of that, I believe you're an international student, you come from your own country, probably you can add a positive point wherein you know multiple languages. So that you can turn your, a little disadvantage into your advantage. So you can just modify that way.
When you tailor, getting a hook on his, when you tailor your resume, check the job description and try to stick with the same expressions and words they use, because that's what that company understands. If they call a project manager a project lead, you're a project lead. It's the same thing. They just called a different name. So try to seek as much as possible to the same words and expressions they use. And when you have the soft skill session, most of the jobs have, that you see what they value most. So that thing should be in your cover letter, because they're soft skills, something that you should write about it. So pay attention to the small details when you tailor your resume. And most of the big companies, they use those SAP softwares to scan your resume, and they look for the same kind of keywords.
And I would also add, let's say if you're missing any skills, just go to your cover letter, mention about that there, that you can learn quickly. And I would say cover letter is important too, because the employer sees that you actually took some time, you got prepared, you learned something about the company, specifically mention why you want to work in that company. Just find some reason. It's very important.
That's very true. Just to show the place that you're applying to that you know what they are. Right? Like just giving a resume in that has no tailoring to it whatsoever. The cover letter is very important, because that gives you the opportunity to say, I know what your company is, right? I understand what you do. This is why I would be good there, right? And that's really important too, because I think anybody that's reading that's going to say, oh, this person does care. They're not just setting out 300 resumes, right?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that is going to conclude our panel today. I want to just thank our panelists very much for all of their insights and taking our questions today. I think we've all learned a lot. So if we could just give them a round of applause. And if you want to come up and have a little word with anyone here, I think we'll stick around for a little while, and you can grab some pizza if there's any pizza left, or cookies or drinks. Okay, thank you very much.